is thanking you for making us part of the program.
Thank you for joining our competition, yes.
So before I introduce the company, I'd like to introduce myself because I think it might be relevant to know the owner and the founder of the company. So I started after a Bachelor in International Business. I started working for LVMH, mainly in marketing, being product manager until I became marketing manager. After that, I joined INSEAD MBA program for a year in Singapore. Coming back for that, I started working for luxury.
Those who don't know, INSEAD, that's probably one of the best in Europe, if not the best MBA program, and they have two locations, Singapore and Paris, right? So you were in the Singapore, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was half in Singapore and half in Paris because it's based on the one school, two campus.
Yeah, that's an extremely prestigious program and probably top 10 in the world MBA program by any ranking.
Yeah. Sorry. So then I joined a brand named Tumi, which retails luxury bags. I was international marketing director for them. 3 years in, Tumi got acquired by Samsonite, and they decided to change the furniture. So all the COMEX was spanked. I used this time to travel a bit for 6 months, and then when I got back, I was looking for a project that made sense. And this is where I met Stéphane Barito, who directs a biotech firm, who invented a molecule in cellular regeneration. And in order to develop a lot of patents and a lot of the treatment for pathologies that don't have treatment existing, he wanted to launch a cosmetic brand to be able to finance research. So this is basically where the story comes from Vinght. That's introduction. Basically, when I started, all we had was a molecule of regeneration and a couple of medical devices that were already on the market. One for complex scars, mainly used for amputees or for diabetes scars. And the second one is used for eye ulcer. And so both of them, thanks to the product that we have, thanks to our molecule, it helps regenerate and help the body basically scar and heal itself. So this molecule has also great anti-aging properties in terms of cosmetics, and so basically this is where the brand starts. So what we launched a couple of months ago. It's been a year that we've been working on the project, but from the time that we had to create the brand, we had to create the product, we had time to actually produce, and then time to go to market. So right now, we only launched a couple of months ago in France. It was a pilot launch. We only selected 10 point of sales to be sure that there was a market for the product before we committed further. And so we launched a very reduced range. 1 day cream, 1 night cream, and 1 serum. And basically, it's very important to understand that we have a very light range because our product is based on the fact that we consider that your body is its own best doctor. It knows itself. And so what our products allows your body to do, is to recreate what it needs in terms of proteins, in terms of molecules, in terms of ingredients. So for example, we don't have 100 or 150 ingredients in our formulas like most anti-aging brands do. We only have 10 to 15. So it's very reduced because our main active is what helps your body regenerate and recreates its needs in terms of cells. So the product is a high-end product. So we retail it in France at 17,990 euros. That's one price for 3 products. 2 of the products, so the day cream and the night cream, have 50 milliliters in terms of quantity. The serum is at the same price, but only for 30 milliliters. So effectively, the serum is a bit more expensive, but that's because it contains more actives inside of it. And we have, in terms of design, in terms of marketing, so I will show you the boxes. I think it speaks better. So as you can see on the product, we have the day cream, which is the pink one, the night cream is the blue one, and the serum is the green one. We didn't, like most luxury brands, like most cosmetic brands, sorry, we didn't choose to go with only one color, but we decided to go with a panel of color in order to stand out more in the point of sales. That was one of the choices. Also in terms of design, as you can see, Vinght, the brand, is vertically written. And that was also a conscious choice because we wanted it to be a stopper inside the shop. So when people would read from left to right, they would automatically stop at the 28 and ensure that they will look around and start reading it. So they will stop on our product. Also, there's a lot of ingredients on here, like small sparkling details that will catch the light. I'm not sure you can see them correctly on the video, but we put a lot of effort building those. So a little bit about the brand value. We're not only a cosmetic brand, so not only our products are very efficient, and that's our main message, but also very natural. When I started doing my due diligence in the cosmetic market, I realized that there was two types of brands. One that were really efficient, but not very clean and not very natural, and one that were really, really natural, but not very efficient. And because our molecule, it helps your body regenerate, and it's also a biomimetic of something that you already have present in your body, basically we decided to go for the efficiency and natural formula. So most of our formula, they are 90% of natural, ingredients of natural origin, sorry. So they're more than 90%. If I take the serum, for example, it's 98.7% of natural origin. They're also very clean, so we go beyond the legislation, and we have a blacklist of ingredients that we don't want to use, whether they're allowed or whether they're suspected, just suspected to be harmful for the body. So our products are basically app proof for some of the apps that are rating the cosmetic, and it's becoming a big trend. They're also very clean, not only in terms of the conception and of the cream, but also in terms of responsibility and ecology. If I take the pack, the sleeve, it's made of sustainable forest, so we have a label FSC. The lamination is soft touch lamination, but it's a soft touch that's biodegradable. So it avoids having one extra step in the recycling process, so that we can recycle the paper. And also the ink is entirely vegetal ink. So we can, in one step, recycle the sleeves, where most of the packaging that you know, because of the plastic that's used, usually take 2 to 3 steps to be able to be recycled. Also, if I take the actual flacon, so the actual container, sorry, the container is in glass and in plastic. And once it's empty, you can separate the glass from the plastic, recycle the glass, and recycle the plastic. Also, the container is airless, meaning that the cream only touches the air once it's on your finger and when you apply it on your face. That has 2 consequences. One, it means that the product is really protected and we don't need more conservators to keep it safe. So we don't have to use those potentially harmful conservators for your skin. And also the second thing is that there is less risk of contamination as opposed to open containers. For when basically you use it, you put your fingers in it, and then some bacteria will stay and will come back, and it can impact the whole container. So there's a lot of things that we've put into it. I could go length about it. We all produced in France to reduce the carbon emissions. And in terms of the pack and the sleeves, they're produced in Italy and Spain to reduce as well the carbon emission. Nothing is produced. I wanted all the products to be part of neighboring countries. Also, it's stuck in France, and right now we only market it in France for reason that we're really just beginning and we're only a startup. And so that brings me to the challenge that we have right now. In addition to develop ourselves in our local market, we'd like to identify the future market where we have potential to be sold. And that's basically where I thought that Texculture would be a great fit for us.
Yes, and that's exactly, yes, what the students will be working on and have questions about. And we do have already some questions. So one question is about the name. So the name, is, if I understand correctly, it translates as Project 28.
So yes, the name is Project 28. Basically, project, because it's not only a project for your skin, it's also a project for science. Part of our benefits go back to science to finance the biomedical research. And that's actually a very key point for us. We want basically cosmetics to feed off science and science to feed off cosmetic. So we're trying to create a virtuous circle. And 28 is very easy. Basically, when your skin functions at its best, when you're young, 28 days is the cellular regeneration time or the cellular regeneration rhythm of your skin. in your body.
So some people suggested maybe it means, forever 28,
Yes, we get that a lot, but we also chose a number for two reasons. One, it's because it screams efficacy when you use a number as a brand, especially in cosmetics. And the second thing is that it allows to start the discussion. Basically, one of the first questions I always get is why 28, and then you can start and tell the brand story and the brand's name and hook people into your speech.
Right. And there are a few questions also about the sort of positioning of the product. So is it sold and marketed as a medication or as a cosmetic product or both?
So it's not a medical device, it's not a medication, it's purely cosmetic. We have medical devices, but their formulation is a bit different. Ours is purely cosmetic, and it's aimed at the cosmetic market in France and abroad.
So it's basically skincare, you said. So essentially, it's a lotion
exactly.
that, just like what women or men sometimes apply, just to keep the skin healthy, young,
exactly,
hydrated. And so, what are the differences? You said there is one for evening, one for morning, one for scarring tissue.
One is the serum, which means basically you apply it before your day cream or your night cream, and it's reinforced in active ingredients. It's got more active ingredients and some different than the day cream or the night cream. So it depends on the wanted effect that you actually like on your skin.
Got it. All right. Then a lot of questions about the geography. So you did say that the product is made primarily in France, and some components maybe from the neighboring countries like Italy. Mm-hmm. But what is your sort of market or interest in terms of selling the product? Are you interested in some particular geographies, or are you open if there is demand to sell it anywhere? So what's the kind of global scope of operations, either now or as a plan?
So I'm going to be very how do you say, practical about it. We're a startup. We're launching the product, and we need to continue to exist. So basically, any markets, I'm very open to the markets. What I really want is markets that are efficient for us, meaning less work, because it's a one-man job right now. I'm the only one on the brand and working on the brand. So it means from selling to creating to producing to everything. And so what I need to gather are the low-hanging fruits, the markets that will have big potential for less working capital.
Yeah, and I assume the product is what they call high value density. So it's a relatively expensive product per kilogram of weight, let's say. So I assume shipping it around the world wouldn't be a problem. The shipping price within the price of the total product will probably be not a huge component, right?
The only barrier to entry in terms of internationalization is really much the regulation, the regulatory aspect.
We'll definitely.
But the cost of sending the product is not that expensive. But most of the market, usually what happens when you go international is that you go through a distributor that then goes into retailers, and then you can have an issue with the margin that you sell the product at. So you have to be very careful at what are the conditions in terms of distribution. Do you do Ex Works, meaning do the distributor purchase them directly straight out of the factory, or do the brands still have to do some work inside the market, i.e. invest in marketing, invest in building the brand, invest in having a small office there? So these are all aspects that I'd like X-Culture to think about.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another question about shipping. I was going to keep those questions till the end, but I see there is one in the email already, and since we started talking about it. So does this product require any special sort of temperature treatment? Like, for example, when it's being shipped, does it need to be cooled or anything like that? Or it's pretty...
Not really, no. Just standard temperature is fine. I mean, we would avoid the extremes, obviously. So not below 4 degrees and not above 35 degrees.
Right.
But apart from that, there's no there's no humidity or temperature condition to stock the product.
So then when it comes to shipping, it doesn't need to be shipped by special cooled vehicles or anything like that. Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, very nice. Now, we have started getting some good questions from the students here live. Bianca Barhudin. So I thought it would be better if you ask those questions in person. So if you would like to go ahead and unmute your microphones and ask your questions, anytime is good. And meanwhile, I will take a look and see what we have here in terms of the next question. So when it comes to marketing, then how do you promote, how do you market your products now? Or what are the plans, the channels that you are planning to use, especially importantly, the demographics? Is it going to be primarily women or all demographics, older, younger? So what's your basically market positioning and promotion strategy?
So I'm gonna use the 4P framework so that I can answer your question. But first, I'd like to address the target. When we started, because it's an anti-aging product, we thought that our main target would be above 50 years old. And marketing in France, 2 months on, we realized that our target was actually way younger. It was starting at 30, and our average, it was between 40 and 45. So in terms of target, I would say it really depends on the market. It really depends on the target market, because most markets have different routines. They have different what do you call that? Usage of anti-aging product. And so I don't want to restrict ourselves. Just bear in mind that it's anti-aging, and so for obvious reason, we won't sell it to like teenagers.
And so when you say anti-aging, so what exactly does it mean? Reduces the.
It's basically we target all the key components of skin aging. So we're basically most of our products are antioxidant, moisturizers, anti-stain, and anti-wrinkles.
Makes sense. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it treats then the consequences, or it prevents aging. So because when you say older people, so it seems to me that if you start early, maybe it will just take longer before those things start appearing.
Well, it does. Basically, what our product does, and I want to be really clear about that, because I want to be sure that there's been a lot promised by the big brands that they haven't really been able to follow through. So lots of promises have been out there, lots of big noise, but they didn't usually succeed in confirming those. So I want to be very clear and very ethical towards what we promise to our customers. Your skin won't look like when you were a kid or like when you were a teenager. But what we can do and what our product does is make your skin work at its best condition from the time you start using the product until you stop using the product. So your skin will work at its best potential at the time you start using the product. So that's why it's very important to understand that, because it's both prevention. The earlier you start and the more applicant you are at using the product, then the better your skin will look as you age. But it's also anti-aging, because we've noticed, we did lots of research, and we've noticed that on 90% of our patients, most of the factors like wrinkles, like volume, like you call that, light, radiance, all the textures, we had a positive effect, and usually we used to improve it by 30 to 35% on average. So we have a very, very efficient product, but I just want to make sure that we don't promise people that they will actually look younger. It's just that their skin will look at their best, and that it will function at its best.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. So Bianca, Barhaduddin, Mark, I see here. So you guys all had very good questions. If you want to unmute your microphones and go ahead and ask them here. Barhaduddin, I see you unmuted your microphone. Go ahead with the question, please.
Hey, I'm Burhanuddin from New Zealand. I just wanted to ask if you wanted to expand in, like, say, US, would you be willing to change your packaging?
So thank you for your question, Burhanuddin. Basically, what we did is that we produced a low series of packaging, secondary packaging, so the sleeve, and we produced a low series because we wanted to improve or to adapt it to the local markets. And most of the time, for regulatory reason, we have to adapt it. So yes, we'd be willing to do that. However, the positioning and the key brand elements needs to be present.
Right. I have one more question regarding, like, so China has this rule that if you have to, if you want to, like, promote your product in China, you will have to do animal testing. So would you be willing to do animal testing, considering since this is a very organic product?
So I assume that animal testing is not concerned for cosmetics. This is only for medical devices and for the active ingredients. So I don't see any reasons why we should do it. And plus, I don't really want to do it for personal reasons and for brand reasons. So that would be a no-go, if I'm honest. But I've been in contact already with a couple of people that knew the Chinese market, and none of them mentioned the animal testing for cosmetics, only for medical devices and medication.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
One question about packaging. So when you say, would the company be willing to change the packaging for the United States? So is there a reason, or do you believe, Burhanuddin, that it would be necessary to change the packaging for the American market?
No, generally the thing is because if you're exporting a product, some ingredients are not meant to be imported. So if it is there, then you have to mention it on the product, and if you're saying that it's an anti-aging product, then you have to test it to be sure that it is an anti-aging product, because you're claiming that it's an anti-aging product.
So you mean then more labeling rather than change the size of the bottle, right?
More labeling, more details on the
Because for a second I thought, I think those bottles look very good to me. I'm like, what's wrong with them? So, but yeah, when it comes to labeling, you're right. It may be,
Basically, the packaging can be adapted, but we really want to stay on brand. So what you see, the brand elements, etc., we want to keep as those. But of course, we're willing to adapt it, just only for the languages, because you can't see there, but there's basically two languages, one in English and one in French. But if you want to move it to a foreigner's market, the translation language, obviously I'd like to keep French for branding reasons, right, but we can adapt the translation to the target country.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bianca, Kirill, Mark, you had good questions. Do you want to go ahead and mute your microphones, ask your questions?
Hi.
Yep, Kirill. Okay, go ahead, please.
Can I start my video or speak like this?
Either way is fine. Just tell us where you are and go ahead with your question.
Okay, I'm from Macedonia. I wanted to ask, what about allergy reactions? Does cream has allergy reactions?
About allergic reactions?
Yes.
Yes, so it's completely hypoallergenic. We have testings on patients, and we had 0 records of any type of allergies. And we did it also on various skin type, so that we made sure that there was no allergic reaction. Because the formula is very clean, there are no allergens in it.
That's positive thing about the cream, and you can advertise by this thing, this fact, because it's not allergy.
So I thank you very much for your question, and it brings to a comment I'd like to make. Basically, the way I built the brand was that I wanted to have lots of different stories, and we can go towards the story of efficacy, we can go towards naturality, we can go towards anti-allergenic, we can go for the ecological reasons, or we can just go for the pure cosmetic French type of brand. And so when it comes to marketing and when it comes to communicating, you really want to choose your battle, because our resources are very limited, and some speech will speak more than others when you try to sell the product. So you can tell the 5 or 6 or 7 stories, but most of the time the human brain only captures one in its mind, and that's what it associates the brands with. So I'd like to keep those more secondary and make sure that the main story that we remember is the efficacy and the fact that we are sponsoring. Not sponsoring, but that we are giving back to biomedical research, because this also proves the efficacy, and this is usually the main point when it comes to selling anti-aging cosmetics.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, very nice. Bianca, you had a question. Please go ahead if you want to ask it now.
Hello, I'm Bianca. I have 2 questions actually. The first one is, why did you choose, when you have started this company, why did you choose to sell this type of product?
Oh, so I chose this type of product. It wasn't really the product that chose me, it was more the project. So I'm not a cosmetic user, never have been. Well, now I am, but I didn't used to be. And I had no particular attraction to cosmetics. But what I really liked was the fact that this project was basically launched in order to help finance science research. And I was tired of working for big companies. I wanted also to be an entrepreneur, and this allowed me to be an intrapreneur, meaning that I get to be an entrepreneur, but with someone else's funding, which is very nice.
Mhm. And the second question is, do you have a website? Because I'm interested in this product.
Yes, we have the website. However, it's open right now abroad, but we don't sell it abroad yet because we have some issues with the transportation. But this should be solved within the end of this month or the following next month. But I can send you. I think Facile has the website address.
Yes, I think it's on the top of the page. Yes, so we have two different website addresses here. If you go to the challenge instructions on the
Yes.
top of the page, you will find the links.
So the link is basically vint-8.com.
No, it's okay. You can speak in French because I speak French too.
Okay, c'est vint-8.com.
Okay, thank you.
For your interest and your questions. Merci.
Where are you located,
Okay.
Bianca? What country are you calling us from?
Romania.
Romania. Okay, very nice. Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then are we missing anyone? So Debian, and I hope I pronounced it correctly, Diaban, I guess. You raised your hand. Do you have a question? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So my question is, someone asked a question before about animal testing, but like, you know, in the world, the people who are against it.
Right.
But if some countries have regulation that you have to do it to check if the product is harmless or not, would you still go through the animal testing?
So basically, right now, I don't want to. It's right. I haven't been clear in my previous question. I think there are plenty of markets that have great potential that don't require animal testing, and these are those where I would go to first, because these are, as I said, the low-hanging fruit, and I don't want to damage the reputation of cleanliness and of ethical company if we proceed to animal testing just to enter some markets. So right now, no, I do not want to enter markets with animal testing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. A few questions about your sort of logistics and business operations.
Sure.
In terms of the entry modes, so when you will be entering the new markets, are you aiming to sell directly to the consumers through such channels as Amazon or other online platforms? Or are you seeking to establish a more prominent presence, such as open your local stores, or maybe go through the local retailers or distributors that have physical distribution channels in the country?
So because we have a premium luxury positioning, most of the direct e-commerce channels are not really appropriate for us. In France, we sell it mainly in pharmacies. The website is only as a support for people who don't have a pharmacy selling the product next to them. So I'd like to keep pretty much the same model. Basically, sorry. So yeah, I'd like basically, if we can, I'd like to sell it through either selective perfumeries, duty-frees, or pharmacies, with an emphasis on pharmacies because it's a product that needs explaining, especially at this price point. And I'm not looking at direct selling. So mainly through distributors that would then sell it to other merchants.
So in this case, you are not talking about then your own stores. You are open to the idea of some sort of a partnership with distributors, retailers, bigger store chains that may have some sort of sales representatives that can explain the process or the product.
Exactly. We don't have an ambition of running our own stores. One of the reasons is because we only have 3 products to sell, so I don't think that would be appropriate. But also because I don't think it's proper for an anti-aging cosmetic brand. You need to be where the traffic is, and most of the people, when they acquire anti-aging, they don't go to retail stores. They go to wholesale stores. They go to point of sales that have multi-brands.
Yeah, and there is a question actually from Asha Raouf. Then she's asking, so in France for now, what are the plans? What channels will you use right there in France?
Pharmacies mainly.
Pharmacies.
Chemists, sorry. Drugstores and chemists.
Yeah. And so when then it comes to shipping regulations, certification, all that stuff, obviously students will have to do their own research to see how these kinds of products are regulated in their own countries. But what has been your experience so far? Does it require a lot of work to get certified to sell in a different country, or in some countries you just sell it as if it's paper or I don't know, cups?
Well, I mean, most of the countries have their own regulations. Sometimes when you enter a market, what you need to do is look at the consolidated surrounding markets. For example, we have European regulations. So French products can be sold in Italy, Germany, UK, well, UK. Let's see for how long, but right now we can sell them without any extra regulations.
With all the Brexit story? Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, there are some countries where it's very easy to sell products, and there are some where the legislatory barrier is very high. So I would be very mindful of this when selecting the country where you think there is potential.
Yeah, for the students, I would like to say that the more details you provide, so let's say you choose, I don't know, the United States as the market. It's important that you do enough research to inform the company of all these issues, from consumer preferences all the way to regulations and certification, that the company can actually take your report and use it. So, and it may take some time to do the proper research, because I assume it's not something that you can, most people don't think about things like certification, regulation, licensing, and whatever else may go into selling a product that, basically is applied on human skin. So make sure that you do enough research so that your report provides some new information and maybe saves the company some time. So this way, instead of them trying to do the research on their own and spending their valuable resources, you can present all the answers. And I think that will make a very good impression.
Well, if I can give one tip, because from personal experience, if you target a country, try to find the distributor of one of the main brands, whether it be L'Oreal, Filorga, stuff like that, and call the distributors and ask him, listen, I have this new brand, it's coming from France, do I need any regulatory documentation? And they can usually sort you out, and it saves you lots of time researching on the internet.
That's a good point. Yeah, they probably have done it many times. So
exactly,
they know.
And they can give it to you straight out of their thinking.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good opportunity also for you students to approach those companies. One of the big factors when the time comes for you to look for jobs, those of you who graduated and looking for jobs, those who will be graduating in a few years, all those personal contacts, they matter a lot. And in many cases, the personal interaction with the company representative, that's what often gets you the job. But the problem is, how do you approach them? I mean, like, what do you talk to them about? Well, here you have a reason. So you have a real case, you're working on this consulting project, and you ran into a little challenge. So you don't know where to find information, for example, about certification. So that's a question that is a very legitimate question. And so people who handle those kinds of issues at the company probably will be happy to help you. And so that's a good opportunity to exchange business cards, phone numbers, and maybe start building some relationships so that maybe tomorrow when you apply for a job, they recognize you. Yeah. We have a few more questions here. So Mark Idelson here. Mark, do you want to unmute your microphone and ask the question? The only thing is, it seems like Mark's microphone is not even active. So he's asking if the product can be applied to a skin of different tones, and has been there any tests, I assume, if it works differently on the skin that is, I guess, darker, lighter, and so on?
Well, actually, no, because that's the beauty of the product. It's a regeneration cream. So it helps your body do what it does best, regenerate and heal itself. Every instant, there's thousands and thousands of cells that are dying in your body, and are being replaced by dormant cells that are just taking their place. And so what our body does is that it helps your body recreate and reproduce those skin cells as efficiently as it can. So it doesn't matter whether you have a dark skin or a light skin or a specific type of skin. It works on any skins.
So the chemistry basically is the same, right?
Exactly. Regeneration is the same principle.
Mm-hmm. And then I see we have here Giovanna, Garth, and Emmanuel with very good questions. I thought it would be better if you asked them directly. Giovanna, I see your microphone is unmuted. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So my question was, would you like to promote your products? Would you like to send them to some YouTubers or bloggers so that they can promote your products for you?
So in some countries, this is mandatory if you want just to exist. For example, in China, I've met with some people that said, if your product is not advertised by one of the KOL, the key opinion leaders, then there is no chance that you're going to sell any. However, this is not necessarily true for most of for all the brands and for all the markets. In France, you can succeed without having a really good social media presence. So it's really up to you to suggest what you think would be best. But bear in mind that our product is aimed at, well, 35, 40, 45 plus. And so sometimes their habits is not necessarily to look on social media to find new skincare products. Maybe their habits is to go to the chemist or to go to a recommendation of their relatives. And so I want to be mindful of the resources that we spend in terms of the marketing mix. Where do you spend your resources and where do you get best value for this? Sometimes it can be social media and I would be okay for this, but sometimes it's not necessarily.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah. Emmanuel, are you ready to ask your question?
Yes, hello, good day. Please, in the industry that you operate in, what is the key cost driver after getting the finished products done? Is it basically advertisement? And in case it's not advertisement, what other measures do you put in place to reduce the cost for such cost driver? Are there other plans? For now, I'm interested in getting to know the key cost driver after getting the finished products, and then my follow-up question can come through. Thank you.
So this question, just to make sure I understand, is really about the costs. So the cost of this industry and the main driver of the costs, but not only in marketing, you mean overall as a company?
After the finished product.
Oh, after the finished product, okay. So the main cost, and that's because that's the model that we use in France. So we decide to sell it to chemists, and there are 21,000 chemistry in France, pharmacies.
Pharmacies, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so because there are 21,000, all of them are like mom and dad shops. So you need to go and see each one of them and convince each and any one of them to store your product. And so the main driver there is the labor, so the human resources, the number of salespeople that will go on the field, present your product, just to have a physical presence. And right now, that's exactly where we are into. I'm looking at hiring a sales team so that we can expand the distribution. Once you have this distribution that's set in place and that the product is available to be purchased, then you look at communication, because there's no point communicating on a product that people can't buy. So the first driver right now, because of our early stage of the company, is the labor costs for distribution and the cost that you need to give to the pharmacies so that they actually want to sell the product, because they know the power that they have. And so usually you dry, they get everything from you, especially when you're a young brain starting. And then after that, I assume that my main cost driver would be marketing in terms of actual communication. So advertising, PR, media buy, etc.
Nice one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your question.
I do a follow-up question.
Sure.
Okay, about the labor cost. Can you use technology to reduce the number of labor personnel you have to engage? For instance, let's say over here in Ghana, if let's say a marketer wants to promote a certain product, instead of visiting each outlet, if you can get their WhatsApp numbers, if you can get the WhatsApp numbers, you just have to take pictures of the products, you WhatsApp the director over there of that company, and then you introduce the product to the person on WhatsApp. Then when the person tells you that I seem to be interested in what you sent me on WhatsApp, so can you pass by, before that you indicate your pricing to everything. So when he calls you that pass by, it means he's giving you orders. Sometimes if you're lucky, they'll give you the orders on WhatsApp. So by the time you come, there's delivery. So as it will be one trip. So I don't know if you could find other alternative ways to reduce the labor cost.
So in the French market is fairly different. I mean, if I was to approach a pharmacies via WhatsApp, first they would laugh, then they would blacklist my product, and then I wouldn't be able to sell it to them. So I'm very open to anything that's very efficient. I just want to make sure that it fits the market that we will be entering, because I know that there are so many different distributions, so many different ways of distributing the product and of making the product known. It's very market specific. I can tell you what we're doing in France because that's what I believe will work in France. But all the rest is very up to you to decide and up to you to recommend based on your experience and on what you know is working on that market. Because I'm very conscious that each and any markets are working very, very, very differently. For example, anti-aging product in France, they're sold in pharmacies, in perfumeries, or in supermarkets. Just 3 of the biggest channels. In the UK, it will be only in concept stores and in retail chains. So it's very up to you to recommend what's the best distribution strategy, what's the best and most effective in terms of resources strategy to enter the market.
Yeah, and that's exactly where the value of X-Culture comes from. So the challenge here is that the companies, especially the smaller ones, they do not have the resources to send people in every country to research how these things are done. And so you guys, by being there, you know much better, you know, how things are done. You can ask the questions, you can maybe conduct your own survey. So we've had situations when, for example, the students would say, like there was this company that produces products for universities and schools. And so literally there were some students from some countries who said, well, you don't need to go to every university. Here is a list of, for example, mailing addresses of the deans of the schools. And so you can try to send it to them directly. This way, you know, for literally for $5 in 10 minutes, you can reach the whole country and at least get some sort of a response and see if it's interesting. Or there is, for example, a magazine that is being read by all the teachers in the school. And so why don't you place an ad in that magazine? So again, it will not cost you much, but it will reach like literally every single teacher in the entire country. So if you know how these things are done in your country, and if you know of the channels that can allow the company easily and efficiently reach the potential target, that's exactly what we would like to hear from you, because otherwise,
exactly.
We have many more questions, and I'm not sure if we'll have time for all of them. So, Emmanuel, thank you. Tanishka, Garth, do you guys want to go ahead with your questions?
Hello, I think I'm unmuted. How you guys doing today?
Very well, thank you. Thank you. Where are you, Garth?
I live in Florida, in the United States.
How is the weather there? Are you okay with all the hurricane stuff?
We're good now. It's all cleared up. Blue sky is only ahead now. So
yeah, about to
we're
hit
safe
North
here.
Carolina. They're dismissing some schools early today here, so we'll see.
Yeah, we're rooting for them up north. So my question was, your product kind of reminds me of, well, it doesn't remind me of like another company, but my main question was, in Florida, I've noticed we have Mary Kay sellers, which is they have normal people go host house parties. And so they'll have 10 to maybe 30 women in each house, and they're selling cosmetics and makeup cosmetics. So they don't have like sole like personnel that come from their headquarters that go door to door. What they do is they allow people to order their product and then they sell it to their friends. Would you be open to maybe that idea into selling your cosmetic product?
So I think like what you're mentioning is the Tupperware model, where basically it's only sold by housewives and to their relation, and what they get is a commission on the number of products they sold.
Correct.
So yes, I'm actually interested in that model because I find it very efficient. It's just kind of hard because most of these models work usually with entry price point products. I haven't heard of luxury or premium luxury positioning products that have succeeded using that model. But that may be because I don't know it. Maybe it exists. So if you think that's the best way to enter the market and to be known, and that the product has a potential to be sold via this model, then I'm very open for it.
Right. Well, I mean, you mentioned that you have a luxury product and you want to have someone explain the product either in the store or to the people. That way they know firsthand of what the product is about and what they're getting for that price point. Right. Sure. Another idea would be, if you were to sell in the States, would you focus on certain states to try the market? Like in Florida, we have an older age gap than maybe some other states. So focusing on maybe one state rather than another might be a more target market for your product. So
I have to admit here that I'm lacking the experience to know which states have the best have the best potential for me. I mean, I know California pretty well, but that's pretty much it. So that would be up for your recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There is one question that came through email, and I'm not sure if I understand what it says. So here it asks, has the company approached the IFF, International Flavors and Fragrances, for distribution? Does this question make sense to you? It's another student from Florida Atlantic University.
So Yes, the question makes sense. No, we haven't.
Okay, so Robert, then I'm not sure if you're watching because you sent the question by email, but yes, hopefully that's a satisfying answer. And if you know how to do it well, or if you think it's necessary, please do explain that in your report.
Okay, hi again.
Hi again. Go ahead, Kirill, yes.
Because as you said, if we know something in our country, how to make advertise on this product, I know that here on not only in Macedonia, on Balkan, on whole region, are reality shows like Big Brother, but with other names. And as I see on the internet, they're said that more than 70% of people who watch those reality programs are more than it's between 40 and 60 years old, and that's the target. Also, those reality programs are so many people, like 1 million in life, and you can probably dare something good. You can.
So I mean, that to me is, these are all good ideas, but what I want you to bear in mind when looking at communication strategies is really much the premium luxury positioning, and do the people you advertise the product to have the purchasing power to actually buy the product. Yeah. Some of the communication strategy, it could be the case, but not necessarily. So you just have to be mindful when recommending a communication strategy that you target the people that have the right purchasing power, and that the brand is represented as a premium luxury brand.
If I may add to that, and that would not be only unique to this company, but in general. So when in your reports, you will be recommending, for example, distribution channels, like you said, you know, like the reality shows, maybe the home-to-home sort of networking, what is it, multi-level marketing, I think it's called. It's very important that you provide enough details. Like, for example, let's say you are saying that there is a reality show in your country that is very popular, a lot of people are watching, and maybe you recommend either product placement or maybe some commercials during that, when the show is being aired. It's very important that you provide all the details. So you don't only say advertise here or advertise there. Provide enough details. How much will it cost? Who would be the right people to approach to place the ads? How much the whole campaign will cost? How frequently you recommend those products are being, placed or advertised? So do all of the strategy, because one of the problems that I see again and again is that students would say, advertise on Facebook, for example, and that's it. So there is nothing about, what the budget should be, how to do it step by step. The whole value from you guys comes not from suggesting something like, advertise on Facebook. Probably the company thought about that. The value comes when you provide a very detailed plan for how much and how exactly it would be done, like a step by step. So for example, if there is a TV show in Macedonia where you think the right audience will be watching it, give exactly, the web address for where the show, can be reviewed. Maybe, how much will it cost to place the ad? How much will it cost per minute? What is the best time? So try to give as much information so that the company manager or owner can literally take your report as a guide and just follow step by step, or at least review it, get a better idea as to, what to expect and how much time will it take and how much money will it take. Anyway, so Dia and Tanishka, you also had questions. Maybe let's do the two of you, and then because we have another webinar in 15 minutes and we still have to switch and restart. So go ahead, please. Dia, Tanishka, whichever one wants to go first.
Okay, so I asked my question in the panel, but you see, you told me that your product, you sell it in chemists and what was it? Yeah, in chemists.
Pharmacies, yeah.
Yeah, pharmacists and drugstores. So I was wondering that wouldn't it be better to sell it in stores like Target or Walmart or Carrefour? Like, because people, like, it's, the product is mainly like based for the age 35 to 40 or going upwards. So many people are likely to visit the stores rather than go to chemists and drugstores. So wouldn't it be better to do it through the stores, like the
supermarket?
Target and all? Yeah, supermarket, yeah.
So I'm going to give you exactly the same comment that I gave to the previous question, is that distribution or communication all needs to be aligned with the premium positioning. Some of the supermarkets are premium positioned, but I'm more thinking about department stores. Some of them that don't sell products that have the same price point. And so I don't want to be the most expensive product and be surrounded with product at 5-10 euros the cream. I want to make sure that the marketing mix, the brand mix that's surrounding my product, the merchandising mix of the point of sales is actually relevant to my brand positioning, and that doesn't impact it negatively.
Mm-hmm.
So
it would be
Okay,
probably more
so
like boutique cosmetic stores.
I have another question.
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so like you said about the price, like your product price should be more, but like where, like the store we have of Carrefour here, it sells creams that are really expensive, like companies like L'Oreal, Paris, Olay. So that's what I was suggesting, because your product also seems expensive.
So as I said, I'm very open to the communication strategy or the distribution channel. What I just want it to be is to be coherent with our premium positioning. If you consider that Carrefour has the right product mix, has the right tools to actually sell the product, and it won't impact our positioning, then by all means, I'm very open about it. I don't know the markets, so I don't know most of the markets. So that's why I'm looking at X Culture to recommend what works best for their country. But all I want is just for the brand to be protected and for the marketing mix, including the distribution and the communication, to reflect the premium luxury positioning.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Tanishka, you had a question too, so you would be the last one.
Yes, thank you. So I came a little late, so I'm not sure if you already answered this, but currently what are you doing to market your product in France or any?
So
we did talk about that.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
No, I can go over it quickly because I'm not sure we went into details about it. What we do is basically we approach each single pharmacies to retail the products, and we have animation inside the stores. So it goes through animation, through trainings of the staff of the store, and also through communication inside the point of sales. So mainly right now we have a small PR approach to get some clippings, PR clippings in magazines, but it's mainly point of sales marketing and trade marketing related. So from merchandising to training to on point of sales animation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have one more question.
Go ahead,
Given
please.
that you guys are selling a high-end product, so if you were to, would you consider personal selling? That is, you go in a high. I'm sorry, I'm not getting the word. So if you go to high-end places and you go house by house to market your product to sell, would you consider that?
So I'm not sure what type you mean, like a salesperson just knocking on someone's door and trying to sell the product?
Yes.
Well, that would be pretty aggressive, but I mean, I'm not sure this would work. If you think it fits the positioning, but from my point of view, I'm not sure that would be the right thing. Like that would diminish the image of the brand, I would say. But if you're convinced and that's what it takes in order to marketing in the target market that you're aiming at, then I'm open for it. But I would have some reserves. So you need to convince me.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Vas, I think your mic is mute.
Oh, yeah. So an important component element of the challenge for most of the companies this semester, as it has been in the previous semesters, is what we call a real-life test of the proposed idea. And so what that entails is that we always encourage the students to try to put their ideas to a test. For example, you believe that Target or Walmart may be a good, distribution channel or whatever the chain is in your country. You can try to approach them and see if they would be interested, for example, in stocking the product. Or if you believe that maybe door-to-door sales strategy will work best, or maybe some other, for example, Mary Kay style. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to try, to get the product and go to several customers and try to sell it. But at the very least, you can conduct a market research and you can maybe survey some potential people, talk to the, procurement department manager, or maybe talk to some potential customers and ask them, so if I showed up at your door with a product like that, would you buy it? And so this way you will have much better understanding as to whether or not your idea works. And if it does, if you've done that research, or if you brought a contract to a company, again, it can be this company or any other company. If you really say, like, for example, I believe this chain of cosmetic stores would be interested in your product, and I spoke to their manager, and here is the letter of intent, so they're ready to start selling your product. That's a much, much stronger argument to the company that your idea will work than if you simply speculate and think, okay, I think it might work. And again, this company, as well as the other companies that offer that option, so they would be willing to reward you if you actually brought something like that to them. In the past, we've had companies that would offer aftermarket commission, and in many cases, actually jobs. So we've had cases where students would impress the company not only with the ideas, but with the market research they did, and they showed that they actually can do this job. And in many cases, the companies say, hey, would you like to be my representative in Romania, Ghana, Ukraine, the United States? So we've had those situations. Again, it will take a little more extra effort and time on your end, but it will also be a good experience. Don't look at it as, you're trying to sell a product for the company. Look at it as you're trying to gain some experience in, testing your idea and trying to get a contract. Chances are it will not work, or maybe it will work, but at the very least, you will gain a better understanding of this particular product, but also when the time comes for you to sell your own products, you will be much, much more prepared. So think about that. Again, it's something that is completely optional. You don't have to do it, but I think this is the best way to convince the company that your strategy might work.
So if I may add two things, basically anything that you recommend, if the data supports your approach, then I'm all for it. I'm very open for it, but you need data to demonstrate that it actually works. And the second thing is that, especially for us, I don't know about the other companies, but we don't sell a product, we really sell a brand. And so it's very important to understand that we don't want to have a single salesman's mind, like trying to sell this encyclopedia or trying to sell this bag. We're not selling a care or a cream, we're selling a brand, and we're selling the promise of the brand. And so that's very important when recommending marketing strategies, that we're not looking at one shots selling the product, we're looking at recurring buy and recurring purchase and getting customers into the brand, so that when we expand the range, we'll sell the product as well because it's the brand.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, obviously, again, when it comes to high-end products, brand matters more than the content of the packaging. Yeah. Anyway, I suggest that we stop here. We have, as I said, another webinar in now 5 minutes. So X-Culture Kids will be the guests, and I'll be there again, obviously. So those of you who would like to attend that webinar, you'll have to use the other link. And so with Project 28, so what we will do, as always, if you have more questions, either we didn't have time to answer them today, or if you will have new questions as the time goes by and you are working on this challenge, just send them to admin@xculture.org. We used to share the contacts of the company managers directly, but the problem there is that there are 5,000, 6,000 of you this semester, and most of you will have repetitive questions, and it just doesn't make sense to ask the manager, busy manager of a company, to answer 25 times the same question. So what we do is Simona De Loca, our assistant here, compiles those questions and sort of creates a database of frequently asked questions. So it is something, if it's something that's been answered already, he just copy and pastes the answers and sends it to you. Plus we have the frequently asked questions page or web page that you can access all that, anytime. And if it's a new question, if it's one we don't know the answer to, then we call or email the company manager, ask for that information, and once we have it, again, we add it to the catalog of the FAQ questions. So this way, the communication is not overwhelming for the company, and at the same time, you get your answers quickly and efficiently. And then we will maybe try to do another webinar later in the semester, after you have worked on it for some time, after you have some more questions, after you have maybe some ideas that you would like to get feedback on. So we'll see how it goes, but maybe we'll try to do another one sometime in October. So.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much very much, Alexandra and everybody else. So I know it's a late hour in Paris by now, probably. So
no, it's okay.
Thank you all for being here. And yeah, I hope I see some of you in the next webinar.
Thank you for your time. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.